All right, let's dive into the life of former President Jimmy Carter. He recently passed away at the age of 100. It's pretty incredible when you think about it.
It really is.
And you've given us this photo gallery from the New York Post, published just yesterday.
Hmm.
And it's amazing how these images offer such a really unique perspective on his journey.
Yeah, it really shows how a single life can, intersect with so many pivotal moments in history.
Exactly. So instead of focusing on just the typical headlines, right, we're going to use these photos as jumping off points to uncover some of those details and see what we can learn about leadership, service, and a life well lived. What do you think?
Sounds fascinating.
Yeah. So let's start with this 1950 photo. It shows a young Jimmy Carter with Rosalind and their 3 children, Chip, Jack, and Jeff.
Okay.
And they look so happy and full of life. You can almost feel the energy of a young family kind of building their future. Do you think this period, with its joys and challenges, might have influenced his approach to leadership later on?
It's an interesting question. Perhaps the demanding yet rewarding experience of raising a family instilled in him the patience and empathy and resilience needed to navigate the complexities of politics.
That's a great point. And right after that family photo, we see him in his Navy uniform. He served from 1946 to 1953, and that period undoubtedly shaped him as well. I mean, many people in his position would have pursued a comfortable career after the Navy,
Right.
but Carter chose a different path.
Yeah, he decided to return to Plains, Georgia, and take over the family peanut farm.
Which brings us to this 1970 photo of him on the farm with his dog.
Yeah.
And you can almost sense his connection to the land. It seems like those roots in rural America really informed his political approach
Yeah.
and his connection to everyday people.
Absolutely. It wasn't just a talking point for him.
Right.
It was his reality. And that resonated with a lot of voters.
And speaking of connecting with people, there's this really unexpected photo from 1973. It's Carter, then governor of Georgia, with Elvis Presley backstage. So what's the story here?
Well, Elvis was performing in Atlanta. And Carter, a big fan, managed to arrange a meeting.
Okay.
It's a fascinating juxtaposition. The peanut farmer governor and the king of rock and roll.
It's a good reminder that even the most serious figures have their passions, right?
Yeah.
But Carter's time as governor wasn't all music and celebrity encounters. There's this photo also with Hank Aaron, also from 1973.
Okay.
Now, this is at a time when racial tensions were still very high, especially in the South.
Right.
So how do you interpret this image within that context?
Well, I think this meeting signifies something much, much deeper. His willingness to publicly support and celebrate a black icon like Hank Aaron speaks volumes about his commitment to civil rights, even when it wasn't politically expedient.
He was definitely ahead of his time in many ways. Now, let's fast forward to 1976, the year he was elected president. We see him working on the peanut farm just months before the election. It almost perfectly encapsulates his outsider status, and that really appealed to voters who were, I think, disillusioned with the political establishment after Watergate and the Vietnam War.
Yes, his image as an honest, hardworking farmer stood in stark contrast to the perceived corruption of Washington, D.C.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we see this very, very powerful image of Carter campaigning in Harlem. It highlights his commitment to reaching out to diverse communities and building bridges. He wasn't speaking to just one segment of the population. He was really trying to unite a nation.
And that message of unity clearly resonated.
It did.
He won the election.
And the next photo captures him taking the oath of office in 1977.
Okay.
That image with Chief Justice Burger, it's iconic. I mean, it marks the beginning of a presidency full of both promise and immense challenges. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a powerful image.
And he definitely faced his share of challenges. But right from the start, he emphasized open communication.
Right.
There's this photo from 1977 of him giving an interview to Barbara Walters in the White House green room. It's more informal.
It's interesting.
Shows his willingness to engage with the public in a different way.
Yeah, that's a great observation. He wasn't hiding behind formality. He was inviting the public in, and this emphasis on open communication was a hallmark of his presidency.
Of course, his presidency wasn't just about communication,
Yeah.
right? It was about action. And one of the most defining images of his time in office is this photo of him at Camp David in 1978 with Egyptian President Anwar Sadat and Israeli Prime Minister Menachem Begin.
Yes.
Now, this is the signing of the Camp David Accords, a monumental achievement in Middle Eastern diplomacy.
Absolutely.
But I imagine the negotiations leading up to this moment were incredibly complex.
Well, absolutely. To understand the significance of Carter's role,
Yeah.
you have to remember the historical context.
Yeah.
This was a time of, deep mistrust between Israel and Egypt. They'd
Yeah.
fought multiple wars,
Right.
and the prospect of peace seemed like a distant hope.
So how did President Carter manage to bring them together? What was his secret weapon?
Well, it wasn't so much a secret weapon as it was a combination of factors.
Okay.
Carter had this deep understanding of the historical complexities of the conflict.
Mm-hmm.
He was also a skilled listener and mediator,
Hmm.
able to build personal relationships with both Sadat and Begin, and he persuaded them to come to Camp David, away from the pressures of the media and their own governments, to really just focus on finding common ground.
It's incredible to think that one person could play such a pivotal role in forging peace in such a volatile region.
Yeah,
This photo really captures the weight of that accomplishment.
it certainly does. And his commitment to peace and diplomacy didn't end with Camp David. In 1979, we see him with Soviet leader Leonid Brezhnev signing the SALT II treaty, an attempt to limit the growth of nuclear arsenals. Another bold move on the world stage.
It seems that Carter was constantly trying to bridge divides, both internationally and domestically.
Yes, and that commitment continued even after he left office.
Mm-hmm.
This photo from 1981 shows Carter with other former presidents Gerald Ford, Richard Nixon, and the newly inaugurated Ronald Reagan.
Wow.
It's interesting to see them all together, despite their political differences.
It speaks to a time when, despite those political divides, there was still this shared respect for the office and for those who had held it.
Exactly. And Carter, for his part, never shied away from working across the aisle. Even when it wasn't politically popular, he didn't just retreat to write his memoirs. He rolled up his sleeves and got to work on this wide range of issues.
And speaking of rolling up his sleeves, this iconic image from 2013 of Carter and Rosalind building homes with Habitat for Humanity. It's truly inspiring. I mean, he could have easily enjoyed a life of leisure after leaving office, but instead he chose to use his platform to make a tangible difference in the lives of others.
This photo perfectly encapsulates Carter's, post-presidency dedication to service.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't about photo ops. It was about genuine compassion and a desire to help those in need. And he did it with such humility and grace.
He really did walk the walk, and his efforts extended far beyond Habitat for Humanity. He founded the Carter Center, which works to advance human rights and alleviate suffering around the world. In 2002, his unwavering commitment to peace and human rights was recognized with the Nobel Peace Prize. And this photo shows him holding up the award. It wasn't just a symbolic gesture, it was a testament to decades of tireless work.
It's a remarkable achievement. And what's striking is that, he never stopped learning and growing.
Yeah.
He continued to write books, to teach, to speak out on issues he cared about well into his 90s.
It seems that his presidency was just one chapter in a much larger story of service and dedication. Even in his later years, he remained engaged with the world, seeking to make a positive impact. In this 2009 photo, we see him at the White House with President Obama and former presidents George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton. It's a powerful image of these men from different generations and political backgrounds coming together.
It shows that even in a highly partisan environment, it's possible to find common ground and respect for those who hold different views. Carter always believed in dialogue and the power of building bridges.
And perhaps the most enduring image from his life is this photo from his 75th wedding anniversary in 2021.
Wow.
It's a beautiful picture of him and Rosalind, their faces etched with time, but their love still shining through.
Their relationship was a true partnership, both in their personal lives and in their shared commitment to service.
Mm-hmm.
Rosalind was by his side every step of the way, a constant source of strength and support.
They truly exemplified the idea that behind every great person is often an even greater partner. As we reflect on these images and Carter's incredible journey, it's hard not to be struck by the sheer breadth of his life and the depth of his impact. He was a man of many contradictions, a peanut farmer who became president, a politician who dedicated himself to humanitarian work, a leader who never stopped learning and growing.
And through it all, he remained grounded, compassionate, and committed to making the world a better place.
It's amazing to think we've only just scratched the surface of Jimmy Carter's life. I mean, these photos offer a glimpse into some key moments, but as we wrap up this deep dive, I keep coming back to those in-between moments, the ones that aren't captured in photos, but that truly shape a person's journey.
That's a really insightful point. I mean, each of these photos represents a specific event, a point in time.
Right.
But what's fascinating is thinking about what happened in between those points.
Right.
The decisions, the challenges, the quiet moments of reflection that ultimately shaped his character and led him to these public moments.
It's like those old flip books where you'd see an image change slightly with each page, creating the illusion of movement.
Right.
But in life, those subtle shifts, the ones that happen between the big events, those are what make up the real story.
Exactly. And with a life as long and as impactful as Carter's, those in-between moments must hold countless untold stories.
Yeah.
Stories of resilience in the face of adversity,
Yeah.
quiet acts of kindness and compassion, unwavering dedication to his family and his values.
It makes you wonder, what are the in-between moments in our own lives that are shaping our own journeys? The decisions we make, the challenges we overcome, the connections we forge. They might not make it into a photo album, but they are nonetheless defining who we are and who we will become.
It's a powerful reminder that history isn't just about the big events,
Yeah.
the headlines or the photo ops.
Right.
It's also about the accumulation of individual lives.
Yeah.
Each one a tapestry of experiences, woven together by those seemingly insignificant moments.
And what we can learn from a life like Carter's is that even the smallest acts can have a ripple effect. Whether it's, working alongside volunteers to build a home, mediating peace talks between world leaders, or simply holding his wife's hand through decades of shared experiences, those actions born from conviction and compassion have made a real difference in the world.
Absolutely. His story shows us that leadership isn't always about, holding a position of power.
Yeah.
It's about using your influence, your skills, and your passions to serve others and to strive for a better world.
As we look at this final photo of Jimmy and Rosalind, I'm struck by the quiet strength and enduring love that just shines through. It seems to me that one of the most important takeaways from Carter's journey is that a life dedicated to service, even outside the spotlight, can have a profound and lasting impact. What do you think? What would you say, for our listener, is the most enduring lesson from his incredible life?
I think perhaps it's that a life of purpose and integrity can inspire others, regardless of their background or beliefs. Or maybe it's the reminder that peace and progress often require patience, empathy, and a willingness to build bridges across divides. Ultimately, what resonates most with each of us, listener, is a testament to the power of Carter's legacy to inspire and challenge us in our own unique ways.
So, as we conclude our deep dive into the life of Jimmy Carter, let's not just remember the photos, but also consider the spaces between them, the quiet moments that shaped a truly remarkable individual. Let's remember that history is made up of countless individual stories, each worthy of deeper exploration. And let's challenge ourselves to live lives of purpose, knowing that even the smallest acts can make a world of difference.